Okay, so welcome everyone. We're going to get started with the webinar. So thanks a lot for joining us. This is one of our Climate Governance in Action series. And so we've done a few of them over the past year or so. And today we are really happy to welcome Corporate Regeneration. And Vincent is here with us, as well as Adrienne, who will do a testimony. So the way it will run actually today is we'll have a short presentation in about 30 minutes. We'll also hear a testimony from Adrienne, who's participating in one of these vision boards, which we'll hear more about in a minute. And then we'll also have time at the end for Q&A. And I'd like to ask you to use the Q&A function at the bottom of the Zoom to type in your questions. And then we'll be sure to answer them at the end of the webinar. So just to frame up a bit, and I think you'll hear more about what Corporate Regeneration does, and Vincent's going to introduce it to us. But one of the reasons why we wanted to host this webinar and work together with them to bring you this example, our members and maybe some of our stakeholders might be aware that we did a survey recently where we tried to figure out what were the top barriers against effective climate governance on boards, actually. So what's stopping boards from putting in place effective governance for climate sustainability. And these are the top 5 things that we found. So lack of time, lack of resources, a lack of understanding and expertise on the topic, focus on short-term profitability, a perceived lack of pressure from stakeholders, and also limited resources to actually act on the actions needed. And I think what we're going to hear from today, this idea of setting up sort of advisory boards or vision boards next to your governance structure, including these critical voices of nature and the youth and other stakeholders, really helps overcome some of these barriers, and particularly, bring in new understanding and expertise, but also bring in the voices of stakeholders. I don't want to take too much away from Vincent's presentation, but thank you a lot, Vincent, for being with us today and for sharing your case study with us. I'm going to give you the screen and also give you the floor to introduce yourself and to take us through the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, Stephanie. First, check if it's the right screen that I'm sharing.
You just need to make it full screen, but we see the slides.
Is it working?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting us today. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I am Vincent Troyens, one of the 2 co-founders of Corporate Regeneration. I am active in the field of sustainability for now nearly 15 years as an entrepreneur, a consultant, a trainer, a teacher, and some other hats. And Corporate Regeneration is probably the most impactful and energizing project that I have run so far. So what is Corporate Regeneration? This is an NGO, so a non-profit organization that we have co-founded with Olivier Bush now nearly 3 years ago. And we have as mission to bring the voice of the young generation, or you could say the future generation, and nature to the decision-making table in the corporate world. So we want to give a voice to specific stakeholders that are most of the time not present around this table of decision. And in order to have an influence or try to help businesses to imagine and create solutions that will be favorable to a regenerative economy. That's what I call the regeneration of living ecosystems. So it's including nature, but also human ecosystems. We are now about nearly 100 young people involved in this association for now 3 years. And those young people have met during different, let's say, meetings, more than 500 deciders so far, and we have about 30 partnerships that was set in place during these 3 years. So first, maybe I will tell you my feeling about the fact that the main reason why we decided to involve young people and nature in governance. Let's start maybe with the most obvious one. let's say, even the beginning of sustainable development. Let's say it was written in the own definition of sustainable development. Remember back in '87 that sustainable development is the fact that we have to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And if you read this, you probably will agree with me to say that there are three main stakeholders that are concerned about sustainability. Of course, the stakeholders of the present, but also the future stakeholders. So our conclusion is to say that there has to be three key stakeholders: the present decision makers in the business world, but also in the political world; nature, because this is thanks to nature and preserving nature that will secure ourselves to have a future that will be, let's say, viable for the future generation. And of course, the first stakeholder is future generation. So that's the first main reason. And the other reason is something that let's say, we all experience, but I particularly experienced myself as let's say, a big turning point in 2020. It was all the Friday for Futures and climate strikes. We saw young people that were in the streets to demonstrate their willingness and also their ability to mobilize them for their own future, but also for the future of nature. And they have some claims that were based not only of some, let's say, young spirit or inspiration, but it was based on scientific findings. And probably they were the most concerned, but also they demonstrate the fact that they were able to understand science and to share the main findings with the rest of the world. So that was a quite, let's say, key period. And it was really the period that made the lines moved. So the youth moved us. I mean, us, the business deciders, as father, as mother, and parents. And my job as consultant or advisory board member really changed after this climate strike. It was not only about why do we have to change, but please tell me, Vincent, how could we change the way we are doing business? Because now I understand that it's high time to transform our businesses. So with Corporate Regeneration, we want to, let's say, to give a share around this table to those two stakeholders. I mean, the young generation and nature. Because we reserve today a place for nature and young people in the boardroom. Probably not a lot of you. That's something that it's not usual, and so that's in fact the goal of Corporate Regeneration, is to end this paradox and amplify the voices that, let's say, from the streets to the corporate boardrooms, so that it's not about the fact that youth and nature knows everything and will be able to decide on their own, but it's about the fact that together, as, let's say, we kind of intergenerational pact to imagine a regenerative future for the young people, but also for the rest of the living world. So we do really believe that young generation and nature belong to all places where decisions are being made, like Ruth Ginsburg told about women. So let me share with you now what we are doing about governance. That we have different ways to put in capacity the young people to talk with a business decider, and one of these ways is to build and to imagine a new kind of governance that we name impact governance. So with Corporate Regeneration, we support this this concept within companies that are, let's say, most of them mature enough to engage themselves genuinely and with a bold ambition, and with the aim also to integrate external and internal stakeholders in their ESG strategic reflection and decision. So we design and facilitate alternative governance bodies that are always linked with the existing ones, like the executive boards or the COMEX, or even the CSR department. And we manage to create places where all those stakeholders or part of those stakeholders can sit peer-to-peer and together achieve some societal goals that are shared with all stakeholders inside and outside. So it usually starts with a kind of audit, and then we design together. Let's say we try to change the existing boards, like Chapter Zero also do with the training and all the different fantastic initiative. And what we have done so far, and maybe that's the most impactful thing that we have done so far, is to create new governance bodies. And I will tell you, I will talk with you about two of them. They are illustrated in this picture. So the upper line, it says that's the classical corporate governance approach, with an executive committee, a board of directors, and the general assembly. And so we put aside in parallel, so it's interconnected with this classic governance, and so named impact governance. So we talk with the management most of the time, the CSR team, to check what are the main challenges inside the companies. And then, let's say we have some green light. We also have a discussion with the board, and sometimes that's the board that directly contact us. And then we set up this governance. There are two governance bodies. The first one is what we name, that's the, let's say, the standard name of it. That's a regeneration board, and that is parallel and with the board of director. It's a kind of impact board of director where we will talk about extra financial issues. And then once a year, we have a stakeholder assembly that will bring in the same room not only the shareholders, but all the key stakeholders of the company, that will also talk about all the extra financial issue. But once a year, they will most of the time vote the action plan of next year, and will also give a feedback of what happened during the last year about those extra financial subjects. So now I will tell you more about the regeneration board, so the governance bodies that is here in the center. What's the aim of this regeneration board? What is it about? It's a kind of time space, let's say a safe time space, where key players in the company ecosystem come together 3 to 4 times a year. And the goals are in this space to challenge, inspire, and also help to define what will be the strategy and action plan of the company towards all the, let's say, ESG or CSR challenges of the coming year, of the coming years. Let's say the overall set of that kind of advisory board is to let's say to help the company and all the CSR team and the different people in charge of extra financial subjects to get some, let's say, more inspiration and help to understand the whole scope of what is the most challenging issue that they are facing. And this is also, the Regeneration Board is also the place where the company will be accountable for their action plan. So we will help them to monitor the extra financial figures, like different kind of reports, and we'll make sure to share the information that will arise from this board with the other governance bodies. So we is in this board. There are 6 to 10 people, most of the time 10 people. They are from diverse sectors, and we try to have as much diversity as possible. Will be at least 2 young people, one from our association and one from the company. We mean with young people, people aged between 18 and 30 years old. And the members profile will be from the internal stakeholder, CEO, CSR staff. There will always someone from the CXO level, and at least also one people who is owner of the company, of board member, because we want to have people who are able to decide and who have a clear and legal responsibility on decision around the table. And the experts that are present, the external stakeholders are experts or influencer, activists, even with, let's say, a positive mindset. Also members from our association and some other people, but that I will give you some example just afterwards. We have set up a kind of stewardship approach. So we give a role to each people present in this board, and they have a role of guardian. So there will be 5 guardians that each of them will be responsible for, let's say, a domain of expertise or an impact domain. And so those 5 guardians are linked mostly with the regenerative economy, like it's here represented with the donut, but not only with those 2 aspects of sustainability. So the guardians, these are 5 duos of guardian, 10 people in the standard board. And so we will have around the table 5 guardian stewards. And the first domain that it will be covered is where it started. That's the intergenerational solidarity. So will be 2 representatives for future generation, 1 people from inside the company and 1 people from our association. 2 other guardians are linked to the donuts. There are guardians of social equity, about human relation and human resources matters most of the time. And the other side of the donuts, we'll have 2 guardians of the planetary boundaries and nature. The 2 last guardians are, at the one hand, a guardian of the mission and the prosperity of the company. Most of the time, it will be the CEO or the owner of the company. So, of course, it's a very pragmatical approach, and we have to take into account what are the financial impacts of the different idea that will come on the table. And the last guardian is the guardian of the regeneration. And those roles are dedicated to the people who are, let's say, experts in regenerative economy and that are involved in our association. But these are, of course, more senior profiles. So how is it working? So we bring on the table all kind of extra financial or ESG issues or matters. Let's say most of the time it will be the CSR roadmap of the company or any material issue that will live in the company at the time we organized the meeting. And each of the subjects will be addressed, let's say, in a particular modus operandi. So we put the subject on the table and we discuss it in 3 rounds. Okay, this is here. During the first round, we will ask each guardian to expose their own advice or orientation, but with this specific lens. So you will talk as the guardian of nature, or we will talk about the guardian of social equity, or guardian of the prosperity of the company or the future. So it will authorize you to let's say to be most of the time most creative, or because you will think not only from your own perspective, but you have to make the effort to put another hat on your head. So that's the first round table. It takes around 10 minutes. And then you will discuss the subject with your own view. And then we will co-build or co-create an answer to the question that is asked by the company. And it will come to an advice or even a decision. Let's say most of the time it's a decision. Even if it's not, if it's only an advisory board, the decisions that are taken in this regeneration board are most of the time applied in the company after being checked by the board of directors or the executive committee, depending on how the company is organized. And the third round, we will make a check. In fact, you come to a decision or to several options toward an issue. And we have a final round with a check, and each guardian say, okay, as guardian of nature, I'm really happy with with the decision, or maybe I'm not that happy because you don't respect I don't know what it could be, the biodiversity or some other environmental aspects of the question. So then you can say if the decision was maybe fully let's say compliant with the CSR approach, or that you have some effort to make it compliant in the future. It's a kind of really useful check at the end of each subject. So 10 people, 5 guardians, so 5 domains to watch. And each guardian, let's say it's feed with a background. So a kind of, not a job description, but a role description. So we give some resources to each guardian, not necessarily to study them, but to help them to understand from which point of view they will have to address the different issue and discussion that will raise during the regeneration board. This is how the regeneration board is working. And so I told you also once a year, like in the classic governance, we also have a stakeholder assembly, like in this picture with Danone Belux. And this is where, in fact, you will present your future CSR action plan, or ask a feedback of what happened during the last year. So if it's 10 people with the regeneration board here, for Danone Belux, for example, it was about 50 people from different fields. And we helped Danone to identify and to bring those people in one room, and also young people from our organization animate the debates and took part to each discussion table. But I told you afterwards more about that. Here are some examples of companies that have experienced this new kind of governance with us. They trust us to have a kind of laboratory during the last 18 months, because we started with this governance 18 months ago. but we are, let's say, already quite happy with the impact that we have, because I will share with you some, let's say, some decisions that were taken and already applied, and also some external advice about what we are doing. So recently, B-Lab Benelux, let's say, involved us in a study about how nature could be represented in the governance. And so with the different companies like Copain, Maison d'Andois, Realco, for example, or N Group, we were perceived as a, let's say, really innovative in the field of nature governance with a very pragmatical solution. And there is now a lot of people involved, a lot of experts that are saying that giving a voice to nature. So that's one of the stakeholders that are on the table with young people and over representative. That giving a voice to nature would be probably the next step of the ESG agenda. So I'm not telling that myself, but this is people from B-Lab and also Nederland Business University in Netherlands. And we will also have a lot of recent recognition from a lot of different actors in the CSR field, like today with Chapter Zero. So I won't insist too much about that. Just to say that we are not isolated to try to bring the subject on the table. There are other actors that really interested in this kind of experience. So this is a kind of governance impact booster, and at 3 levels, directly with the executive at the board level, but also at the assembly level. And why is it so? Because we do think after 18-month experience that this is really in line with all the subjects that as a company we have to be compliant with, like the G of ESG, like all the ESRS of the CSRD approach, also for the SMEs. It brings you also a lot of insight for the B Corp or the B impact assessment, and it gives sense to also a lot of things inside the company that will stronger your employer branding. I think I've talked enough. Can you tell me, Stephanie, what time do
it's okay, still, yeah, a few more minutes is okay.
A few more minutes, okay.
It's 1 o'clock, yeah, or up to 10 even.
Okay, it's okay. So maybe I'll also share with you. So 18 months, that's not a lot, but it's enough to, let's say, that we try to validate our proof of concept. And what are the lessons learned? So like I told you, this is a kind of approach, or probably have others that will match with what's the ESRS requirement are waiting from the company in kind of stakeholder management. This is also a more systemic approach than a lot of over, let's say, impact governance attempts. This is quite, let's say, creative and ambitious. And what really, one of the best lessons learned is that this intergenerational approach and governance open to external stakeholder, it brings a lot of creativity and also a lot of energy in the discussion that will be really useful for the people in charge of CSR in your company. That's maybe one of the key message that I want to share. Now, after this theory, I will share with you one of the examples. So we have 7 partners so far. And one of those partners is Realco. Realco is a SME active in Belgium, in Louvain-la-Neuve, and they are specialized in green chemistry. and they use enzymes as detergents, and they are nearly a world leader in this field. And so we have set up with and for them a regeneration board. They name it a vision board, because the word regeneration does not live inside the company, but they had just define what was the vision of the company, and that's, let's say, the main words that all the stakeholders inside and outside are used to. So they name it a vision board. And we have today the honor to have with us Adrienne Axler. She's one of the this vision board member. And after my introduction, we will have approximately 10 minutes to watch a video with her testimonial. And she is also with us, but she's in a train, and so the connection is maybe not stable enough to make this testimonial in live condition. So will be a recording just after my short introduction of what is the context in Realco. So the context is that we have set up this vision board. So that's similar to the regeneration board that just described. So there are 10 people around the table in this advisory board. 10 people, it means 5 guardians, 5 duos of guardians, 2 guardians of the regeneration. These are the 2 co-founders of Corporate Regeneration, myself and Olivier. 2 guardians of the mission and the prosperity of the company. This is the CEO, George Blackman, and her sister, who's Chief Financial Officer. There are 2 guardians of planetary boundaries and nature. Namely, we have Colin, who is the sustainability and, let's say, coordinator inside the company, and also product manager. And one external stakeholder, Geraldine, who's a CSR manager for N Group. And then you have 2 guardians of the intergenerational solidarity. Cedric from inside the company, who was elected by all the other young people from the company to be very represented in this board. And Dimitri Sommers, who is part of Corporate Regeneration as a young man. She is, 26 years old and active in a company at Veolia in Brussels. And finally, there are 2 guardians of the social equity. One internal stakeholder, the HR manager, Sandrine, and Adrienne, who is the external guardian of social equity. And Adrienne is a former CEO of Sodexo Europe. She is retired now for 3 years, I think. She will introduce herself in the video. She is used to be an independent board member in various companies and NGOs, and she was also the founder of Club L, who has goal to have more diversity in boards and more women. So, for example, what were the subjects that were on the table with Realco? I will share with you some, let's say, key decisions that were taken after discussion in this vision board. So we took 1 or 2 boards to challenge their sustainability roadmap and impact report. So it gave them the opportunity to change some aspects of this roadmap and also to address differently the impact report. And most of the time, what is living in these boards is it's about tension. It's about tension between business and sustainability. It's about tension with between different level of decision making. And these are some examples of, let's say, ethical dilemmas that we have questioned and managed in this committee. And for example, they decide not to attack the customers or of the competitors who have already developed an let's say, even effective sustainable solution that Realco has done. So this is one example of a decision during this board. They also decide to change the margin of the healthiest products in their portfolio in order to reduce the price and to make it more, let's say, attractive for their customer. And they change, and even for some of the products, stop to market some of the products in order to focus all their efforts and financial efforts on let's say, the more green or virtuous product of their portfolio. So we help them to make some bold decisions that were balanced between sustainability and profitability. Two other examples. We also help them to think about how they can mobilize their own staff and to make this subject live in all the company at each level. We did a critical review of our carbon footprint, and in fact, we also decided lately to see the Regeneration Garden not only as an actor in 4 or 3 times a year in the board, but also, like you do with the president of the board, a kind of privileged sparring partner for the CEO and the CFO for extra financial issues. That's how far we are now with Realco, and now I propose you to listen to Adrienne, that we will make our own testimonial about what was her experience at Realco, but also in a broader view, what is her advice about corporate governance and sustainability.
Great. Thanks for that great presentation so far. Also, if you can stop sharing your screen, then I'll bring up the video. And as mentioned, Adrienne is with us, so she can also take questions afterwards.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Hope this will work for the video.
Hello, everybody. My name is Adrienne Axler, and I was asked to share with you an experience I have been participating in since I think something like a year, which is being part of a board, Conseil de Vision, with a company called Realco. Let me first tell you a few words about myself. I retired actually in 2019 after a full career within a food service company or food services all over, but I spent the last 29 years with one single company called Sodexo. I think everybody knows Sodexo. And this is very important for the rest of my story, because we are going to talk about governance, about ESG, about commitment and purpose. And I think it was really something very founding in my career, having joined a company that from the very beginning of its existence had a very strong purpose embedded in the DNA. And so, as I told you, I spent 29 years with them. I retired 5 years ago. And for me, at that time, the question was, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? How am I going to transmit this, my experience? How am I going to help others, individuals and companies, to be an actor in something that is very important today, which is the transformation of our society. And so I started actually with individuals, because I'm someone who I think can be very supportive on individual level. But very quickly I was contacted with by organizations and companies and boards, and so I entered in some boards and really started transmitting. At one point, I participated in a very interesting experience that was called Regenerative Alliance, and it's there where I ran into regenerate corporations. or Corporate Regeneration. I always miss the full title, Vincent Truijens and Olivier Bush. And actually, I was much more interested in the young people that surrounded them than in connecting to them. But finally, I connected to Vincent. We had very interesting discussions. And he was the person who convinced me to get more involved in regenerate corporations. And later on to join the Rialco Vision Board. So why do I think that young people are so important today with the process of transformation? And at the same time is the question, what is the biggest challenge today for our society and automatically for corporations? I think the biggest challenge is to understand and take full consciousness of the complexity. And I think the complexity has always been there. It's not something new, but we just were in a kind of denial. And it was very difficult to admit that we are part of something bigger and that everything is connected. So this is today the biggest challenge, getting reconnected, understanding the complexity. And to come to the point, I think young people are much closer to understanding this for many reasons. But unfortunately, young people are not always represented in governance, in boards, in organizations. They just have to climb up and wait until they are allowed to speak up. So the initiative of regenerate corporations is really something very interesting and I think very useful.
Etienne, I have a question on that actually, which I'm sure some of the listeners will also be interested to know. So in setting up this vision board, how does Rialco and the rest of the board ensure that the voices of the youth and other stakeholders are actually taken into account in decision making and not just remain something aside, but really part of the decision making?
Let me perhaps go back to the first point I mentioned about some companies, well, the company I have been working for, which was Sodexo, and really what I did not understand right away when I started was that the DNA and this integration of ESG was already there, and it's about 6 years ago, so it was really very visionary. And then it's very easy, okay? When you have a company that has funded his mission statement and his strategy on these strong elements, then you just have to carry on and you know, convince the others outside the company. When it's what's happening today in many cases, that you just did your business, you build your business model, and then at one point you think, I should integrate these elements into your strategy and your mission statement, then it can be tricky, okay? It doesn't mean that Rialco did not have or was not concerned by ESG and by environment and so on, but it's a company that was funded, I don't know, 30 years ago or something like that. So a company getting older that was very much keen on complying with all these elements, but not really ready to change fundamentally the things. Until the point that the new generation came, I mean, second generation, because it's a family-owned company, and the present CEO and also his sister, who is the CFO, were very much eager and convinced that they had really to do a shift. And so it's them who integrated, who founded this vision board, and also choose the young people who are sitting on this board. And they are also carrying the word of this vision board to the board itself. And don't misunderstand me. It's not easy. They have to convince, because typically you have the gap between this new generation who I'm very much admiring them. They very well know what they want, what they are ready to give up, what they are ready to invest for a different future. But they all are fighting against other generations who have built something up and who are not ready necessarily to give it up. So this is typically the conflict you can experience in this kind of situation.
Really interesting. Thanks. So what I understood is it's very important to have this link back into the board and people to carry the message forward. Maybe on the challenges that you've seen, it's very interesting to hear. What would be, in your opinion, the main benefits for Rialco? And maybe I double that question to what advice would you have for companies who are trying to convince their boards and their managements to set this up? So what have you seen as the benefits, and how can that be used maybe to convince others to get on board and to set up something similar?
The first advice I would always give is be fearless. You know, it sounds familiar because someone else had said it before, but I really believe that one of the best weapons and best conviction tools is really not being afraid, because most people have common sense. And so if you are very convinced of your story and you have a story to tell, then they are ready to listen. And the best evidence of this, Rialco recently needed a new board member to integrate in their board, so even not in the vision board, and they have made a very audacious choice for a young lady who is very much into sustainable development and so on. So you know, it really you have to put seeds and then it grows. Of course, it's easier when it's a family company, because there is a trust that's perhaps easier to build up than in a normal environment where people come and go, and they usually don't stay for such a long time. And I strongly believe that continuity is something sustainable, okay? But it's possible, and you have to be, as I said, fearless and have a strong intent. This is the advice I would give.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, excellent. Thanks a lot, Adrienne. Any last words before we close off the interview?
Last words. No, I think it's first of all, let's go back to regenerate corporations. Corporate regenerations. I never know what corporate regeneration. I think many leaders today feel alone. It has always been one of the problems of a leader, of a CEO, but it's still more complex today because of the complexity, because of the speed. So don't hesitate asking for advice. And these people are extremely supportive, but they also will challenge you, which is needed. We have one of them sitting on the vision board, and sometimes he really, you know, shakes us up, and he tells us perhaps you should look to it from a different point of view, more radical. So this is really the advantage. Second point I would like to highlight is that, of course, I'm not sitting in this board as a young representative, but as a counterpart, and this is also important. Of course, young people today have tremendous knowledge, tremendous experience, but our generation perhaps can bring something from our experience, our wisdom, our resilience. So we have to keep fighting together.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks a lot for the work you are doing and for your passion for the topic as well. And we appreciate you taking time to share your testimony with us.
And good luck.
All right. Great. So that was a nice testimony from Adrien, who's online with us, but as Vincent mentioned, in the train. So now we have time for Q&A, actually, and I saw, Vincent, you were busy answering some of them typing as well, but let me just maybe have a look at what was left there. There is one question about the recent elections, which is very timely, and maybe your experience working with young people. How do you see the younger generation? You know, we hear a lot that they're kind of coming, they're going to save us, they're very sustainable. Is this still the case? Are they still, you know, engaged in wanting change, or is it sort of tiring a little bit, which maybe I think was the comment that we might have seen this over the past few days with the elections?
Yeah, that's a good question. I need some more time maybe to could address this question, but my feeling is that I'm not sure that there is a so huge difference between 2020 and today, because when we are talking, I mean, we corporate regeneration are talking about youth. There is no one and only youth, and then there's never be and we never be. So that's a fraction of the youth that maybe also was silent in the past, that now is, let's say, express also itself to say, okay, even I'm bored, I'm not convinced about all this sustainability subject, but there is still a fraction of the youth. I'm not able to tell you, is it 20, 30, or 40% that are still concerned about those subjects. And of course, all the young members of our association and the young people we meet are engaged, and they are not only, let's say, activists, but they are also convinced that a company, a corporation, is a good mean or is really part of the solution. So and I still every day meet a lot of young people who are really engaged. So I stay optimist about the fact that that there are, let's say, enough to try to change a thing. We don't have to be the majority.
Yeah.
But I am also, let's say, I will lie to you if I say that I'm not let's say, preoccupied about the results. But my own opinion, that's maybe not a direct answer to the question, but that makes the role of a corporation even more important than before. If we, I mean, all the people here around the screen that are active in the corporation really are convinced that we have to transform the way we consider the economy and the business activities. No, we say that we will have to do it ourselves and not waiting that the let's say the political world show us the way and put the red carpet in front of us. I am. This is a pity, but it don't have to stop all the efforts that we engaged so far.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, another question is maybe a bit more on the naming, and why did you go for regeneration boards and not something like sustainable boards? Maybe you can talk a little bit about the name, and
Yes.
it's maybe a long name, which Evelyn showed us in her video, but it's an easy one to remember.
Maybe you have to change the name. No, I'm kidding, but you know, Adrien is not the only one to have sometimes some trouble to remind the name of the association.
I'm going to add also, before you answer, Vincent, I'm going to add one last question because I see we have 5 minutes, so maybe you can answer both at the same time. Okay. There was a few questions there and a few comments about how maybe some of the people on the audience, who are probably most of them board members, could get involved actually in this type of a board. So is there a way for people to volunteer or to sign up? And maybe on top of that, what would be your call to action to close out actually, because we do have 5 minutes left. So maybe you can answer a bit the history on the naming and answer with a bit your call to action or how people might be able to get involved.
Okay. So about the name, Corporate Regeneration is about, it's also let's say, it's about intergenerational, but so regeneration, you can understand also that it's about bringing generation together. But we do really want to address regenerative economy. So regeneration is something a step further than sustainability. So this is the idea about the name. We do realize that not every company, it's not in every company that the word regeneration is already something that it's discussed, but our intention is to really bring, let's say, to put the cursor at the side of the regeneration. It's about donut economy, it's about regeneration. And then the other question is about how to involve yourself as board member in that kind of impact governance body. You can indeed volunteer. So we know that we are in let's say in the second phase of the existence of the association. We just finished the proof of concept, and now we try to scale up. And so we do need people who are the kind of profile that are around the screen today. I mean, independent board member or even board member from inside the company that are really to integrate those kind of advisory board. I hope everywhere. So don't hesitate to send me an email and say I'm interested. I want to discuss it further. We do have a kind of database with people who are inside our ecosystem who say, okay, like for example, at the end, it was the case. We had a discussion with her. We knew that she had experience as board member, and we need people with experience with governance. Not only people with experience with governance, we really do like to have some diversity also with people who are not used to, because it brings also some interesting ideas. But that's crucial to have some people with experience and who have followed training with Chapter Zero, Giberna, and so on. That's really we want to collaborate, of course. And there was also a question. We always have at least one board member of the company in the regeneration board. That's very important.
Yeah, it could be a nice call to action to consider setting it up within the companies where some of our members are already in boards, and they could be part of it in that way, or indeed volunteering to be part of a separate vision board. And I see Adrien on the train. Thanks a lot, Adrien, for joining us today and for being here. The connection is a bit choppy, I think, but we see you. Yeah, so there was a question also about sharing your contact information. I think, Vincent, we can share the slides as well as the recording, and we'll make sure that your contact information is included there. So if anybody would like to get in touch and have more information, they can do so. But I think we are reaching time, so I will just close by saying thank you very much. I see there's still quite some questions, so we'll have a look and maybe we'll be able to answer them in the wrap-up email that I will send off to everyone. So we'll get to your question if you have. But thank you both so much for being with us today and sharing this inspiring testimony and call to action for impact governance.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Adrien. And have a nice trip.
Okay, bye, everyone. Thanks a lot for being with us.